Hey y'all, this is Charcoal, and this time I'm doing something a little different. I'm gonna be doing a creepypasta reading. My plan for this creepypasta narrating livestream is for me to read the creepypasta out that I got permission to read, and yeah, that I got permission to read, and edit it into a proper creepypasta narration YouTube video. It's called Life Sucked, Daydreaming Didn't, Until I Crossed the Crossroads by iifinch. Don't really know how to pronounce that. Or Finchchink, as it's called on the subreddit. I've gotten permission to read him, and he has the honor of being the first person to be read for a creepypasta for the first time in a long time. Haven't done a creepypasta narration in a long time. And let me put a few things into some context for all of you about my history with creepypasta narrations. I've been into creepypasta videos since a young age. I first encountered them with Creepsmicpasta's Max and Ruby 0004 video. It was disturbing for me at the time. I also found Mr. Creepypasta thanks to his Five Nights at Freddy's lore videos, and the real Chuck E. Cheese video left me shaking for a while. I got into Creepypasta Jr. thanks to his Pokemon Blood Edition narration. Gory parodies productions were a popular subject for creepypastas for a while for me. I even collaborated with them for a creepypasta video back then. Just goes to show how much I was a fan of creepypastas. The genesis for me creating my first creepypasta video was back in 2020. I was into a YouTube channel called Nevercake, who were also friends with this storytime narrator named Ginger Pale. I used to be big into those storytime animation channels back then. And Nevercake made two creepypasta videos, so I decided that if an artist could make creepypasta videos, then I could do the same thing. I also used to use Scratch back then, the little programming website where you program your own little projects. I decided to make a creepypasta video through the Scratch program. There was little background music, and the audio was bad as I was recording it with the laptop I had back then, which was a Chromebook, and it was on a Scratch project, and I did this another time. I made two creepypasta narration videos on Scratch before I would eventually move to iMovie and eventually other editing programs. And after that, I've made like 60 odd creepypasta narrations before I eventually slowed down, as I couldn't find the time to do it anymore. Word of advice for when you decide to read a creepypasta and you have permission to do it for a video: make sure to write it down into a document or a text file to read it offline, and in case the original source gets deleted. This creepypasta I had to find on another site because the original place I found it on got deleted, so I had to find this. That would have been troubling, to say the least, and it could have thrown the entire stream into the garbage. Another thing I do for my creepypasta narrations is that sometimes I'm a terrible audio editor. I decide to put the creepypasta text into the video subtitles. No other YouTuber has done this, and I've done this because it'll help make the video easier to understand. Even exists some audiobook videos that contain subtitles from the book they're reading from. So subtitles in audiobooks aren't a new concept, but I haven't seen anyone do this for creepypastas. So I seem to be the only one of my kind to put subtitles in my creepypasta videos. There was also my third creepypasta video, My Best Dreams Are My Worst Nightmares. The original text got deleted, so I still haven't completed the subtitles for it, but back when I did, I had to rewrite the subtitles from the top. Just goes to show the dedication I had to making creepypasta videos back in the day. Okay, I feel like I've introduced myself enough. Let's stop the preamble and get right into the story of choice. None other than Life Sucked, Daydreaming Didn't Until I Crossed the Crossroads by iifinch. Okay. On full screen. Now I'll check my phone and make sure this actually works. Yep, it does. I spent as much time as possible in my head. Okay, good start. You spend time in your head. I'm sure all great writers and artists do such a thing. I'm sure everyone thought I went into my room, shut my door, and left the world to watch porn or play video games. But I promise I was blissfully daydreaming my evenings away. I do the same thing when I write scripts. Daydream the day away. It's basically when I write down comic scripts and stuff. It's basically like playing a movie inside my head. This was one of the big selling points for me when I first found this, and why I wanted to narrate this. I'll repeat a few lines a few times until I get something that feels right, because I want to make sure the video is in good quality when I edit this together. Okay, one more time. I spent as much time as possible in my head. I'm sure everyone thought I went into my room. I'm sure everyone thought I went to my room, shut my door, and left the world alone to watch porn or play video games, but I promise I was blissfully daydreaming my evenings away. I filled a binder with plot points. I filled a binder with plot lines and characters, my family and celebrities, who were proud of me, challenged me, loved me, and hated me in my dream worlds. Daily life of a manga artist. My father grew irritated at my isolation. Ironically, he was the reason I stayed in my room to create this world. Dad was a strange guy, oddly religious. He never knew who he wanted to serve, though. He never knew who he wanted to serve, though. Dad went from being a devil worshipper to a devout Christian to worshipping something darker. I've written down in my comics that my world would be a fusion of different mythologies, with emphasis on original characters and public domain stuff. Clearly, it never occurred to him to just try and cocktail mix his religions or create his own subgenre of religion. One day, he asked me what I was doing, and I told him the truth. Just thinking. Dad smacked his face in frustration with one mighty tattooed hand. I jumped at the sound. I'm now thinking about that facepalm meme you see YouTubers do, where it's just all those people collectively facepalming. One day, he asked me what I was doing, and I told him the truth. Just thinking. Dad smacked his face in frustration with one mighty tattooed hand. I jumped at the sound. He's a lazy waste of space, and loud noises scare him, Dad groaned. I wanted a son, not a... His complaints morphed into groans as he yanked his red beard in frustration. He's a lazy waste of space, and loud noises scare him. He's a lazy waste of space, and loud noises scare him, Dad groaned. I wanted a son, not a... His complaints morphed to groans as he yanked his red beard in frustration. Understanding the lines of his complaints so well they showed up in my nightmares, I didn't bother staying put. I walked upstairs to my room to daydream. His reminders of my failures as a son boomed from him for a good 10 minutes until Monday Night Raw came on and he settled in. Dad watched wrestling like he was in it. Choke slamming, countering, and submitting the opponents as if he were possessed. As a younger kid, this scared me. As I grew up, I realized he was just doing the same thing I was, fantasizing. Oh, the sad, sad irony. I wished Dad respected my fantasies as I did his. Maybe life would have gone differently for us if so. Upstairs, I dreamed of a world where the wrestler, The Undertaker, was my brother, so my dad could have a better son. That world shredded apart my dad's early words. That world shredded apart as my dad's earlier words haunted me even in my dreams. That world shredded apart as my dad's earlier words haunted me even in my dreams. I fought back trying to mold an image of that perfect son. I fought back trying to mold an image of the perfect son. I fought back trying to mold an image of that perfect son. I wrestled with the thought until sleep took me. The next morning, after I finished my day's assignment, I was homeschooled. I headed upstairs to see my notebook torn to shreds. I lost it. I screamed and hollered, heartbroken at my lost world. I would have totally ran away from home at that point because he is not his dad. Eventually, my dad came behind me, grabbed me by my hand, and pulled me outside. I thought he would beat me, but he tossed me in his truck and we drove until it got dark. Shivering on the bumpy country back roads calmed me down. My icy breath came out slower and slower, less angry, loud huffs in rebellion at my condition, and more quiet shivering and fear at my father's resolution. Dad looked forward, spoke no words, and only opened his mouth to put a cigarette in it. He gripped the wheel with frightening fury, veins popping, arm red, hands in the practice of tightening and loosening as if he were practicing choking something. sense of danger growing, I was drawn to his arm and his tattoo sleeve. Sense of danger growing, sense of danger growing, I was drawn to his arm and his tattoo sleeve. The sleeve on his right arm had been done and redone. First a Baphomet to represent his satanic tradition. First a Baphomet to represent his satanic tradition, then a lamb for Christ, and then a satyr in a forest. Eventually, we came to a crossroads in the dead of night, and he stopped. My father turned off the car lights and the engine. It should have been complete darkness, but the moon lit in the center of the crossroads like a spotlight on the stage. Dad spoke, but not to me. Dad was mumbling something strange. His lips and lungs worked overtime in the cold, and he only stopped to catch a breath. A cloud of white appeared from his lungs as he gasped between his chanting. Wiggling in my seat and stroking my arms, I tried to warm myself while my eyes darted around the car for something sharp. I felt I would have to protect myself soon. The man was barely a father, but he was like a stranger now. A hand grabbed me. "Shut up," said Dad. It was his hand. His grip on me tightened. I wasn't talking. "Stay still." I obeyed. "What are you going to stop all that?" he asked. "Stop what?" "The weird, the stories?" "Thinking, you mean?" I thought, but didn't say. "And then I'll be like you." "Suit yourself," Dad said, without hearing a response from me. Wait, Dad, I didn't say anything," I said, and he ignored me. My father turned the car on and made a left through the crossroads, looking through the rearview mirror as he left. Looking through the rearview mirror as we left. I swear on my dead mother's life, I saw the light from the moon leave the crossroads like something in heaven turned off that spotlight. The road grew more bumpy, bouncing in my seat. I looked outside at what could cause this. Wilderness. The road was so much wilder. We ran over roots that crawled out of the ground like dead bodies on the day of the apocalypse. Leafless, barren trees stripped of all bark, so they were naked and strange, lined our descent down the road. Leafless, barren trees stripped of all bark, so they were naked and strange, lined. Leafless, barren trees. I'm gonna need some water for this one. Leafless, barren trees stripped of all bark, so they were naked and strangely lined our descent down the road. Hey, Dad, where are we going? Dad grumbled, signaling for me to shut up or get hit. Within the 5 seconds, I could remain silent. I saw a tree with 5 nooses hanging from it. A slap from Dad would be worth it if he could confirm we would be safe. Dad, where are we going? He grumbled again. Daddy, just tell me you're not going to hurt me. His red beard rustled, and cigarette breath blew out a single word. No. The rickety truck crossed through a stream, and we drove deep into the rickety truck crossed through a stream, and we drove deep into the blizzard. The rickety truck crossed through a stream and we drove into the bazaar. Still in the woods, whips with silver tips littered the ground in piles like leaves on a fall day. Trees were fuller this time, full of life, bark, and height. However, they were made of human skin, as if the human body could be stretched like bubble gum and pasted on a tree. I don't want to go, I don't want to go. I grabbed, I said, and grabbed the steering wheel from my dad's hand. Dad jerked it back. I bit his hand and tossed my body on the wheel in an insane attempt at extra leverage. The car spun, twisting into a pile of whips, slashing against a tree. Both of us cursed one another, and then we crashed and the world went black. Some more water. Another reason I chose the story is because the style right there with the human skin mentioned in the story, it gives me some serious Clive Barker vibes. The guy who've written the Hellraiser story. One of my favorite horror movies of all time. And the car crash and the abusive dad, it reminds me of the origin story for one of the characters I've written, the Exclamation Detectives. More specifically, the character Exclamation Bear. He's known by the real name Jonathan Abies. My inspiration for his backstory was Rorschach from Watchmen. My inspiration for his origin was Rorschach from Watchmen. He was born into an abusive family, and it ends with his parents arguing with each other until they get into a car crash. And what Jonathan does after all the years of abuse he's taken from them, he doesn't rescue them or anything. He just runs away from home and just flees town, pretty much leaving his parents to die, basically screwed. He does flee the state and get adopted by this farm family, and would eventually become friends with this beaver. I haven't settled on the name yet for Exclamation Beaver, but the two of them would come together and would form this detective agency called the Exclamation Detectives. Beaver is supposed to be the nice, lovable one, while Bear is supposed to be brutish and mean. I have written the Exclamation Detectives to make a cameo in a charcoal comic. I've written them to be sort of recurring characters to where they can appear and disappear in any given comic story. To where basically I create this character that I could just place into a comic where I see fit. Okay, moving on. I woke up chained in silver on a silver throne of grass. I woke up chained in silver in a throne room of grass. The smell fantastic like a freshly mowed lawn on a Saturday morning. Nauseous and in pain, I collapsed into the grass. But soon, despite the chains and pain, I felt free. The way the grass was so soft, the strange white light, I was in another world like my daydreams. I was happy here. I didn't want to get up. However, my father yanked me up. My dad stood to my left with a cut on his head and a bored expression. Here he is, Dad said. That's the boy. Fix him. My father spoke to something on a grass throne. My father spoke to something on a grass throne. A satyr, like my father spoke to someone on a grass throne. A satyr like the one he had as a tattoo. It was handsome with dark curly hair. What, pray tell, is wrong with him? The satyr said. He's spending all day in his room being weird. You promised me a good kid. This one ain't normal. Well, what was he? Well, what is he writing? He says his thoughts. The satyr clapped happily. I blushed, humbled. Hope swelled in me. Could I stay here? Ah, so we fix the thoughts, the satyr said, and fix him. My father shrugged. So we can monitor his thoughts when his eyes are open or closed, and as long as there's breath in his lungs until he is old and made of mold. And if his thoughts are not right, trust in a satyr's might. My father looked at me with a wicked nod. What did I really do to him? All I ever did was exist as I wanted to. Was that really so bad? I couldn't look at him because the satisfaction in his face told me the answer. What are you going to do with him? Dad asked, and this gave me a spark of joy. Was he having doubts? What are we going to do with him? Dad asked. What are we going to do with him? Dad asked, and this gave me a spark of joy. Was he having doubts? We have our methods. We have our methods. Do you really care as long as they work? No, not really. No, not really. Hopes dashed. Hopes dashed. I hung my head thinking about. Hopes dashed. I hung my head thinking about those whips we saw earlier. And for how long would you like us to monitor him? I guess until he's 18. If he still sucks, then if he still sucks, he's someone else's problem. I guess until he's 18. 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 Then if he still sucks, he's someone else's problem. How old is he now? 10? 10. 10. Oh, wow. What a big boy. Excellent. And do you understand and accept the conditions via all the natural laws that run our world and yours? My father went silent for a few seconds. No, he said, not yours. I don't have to accept yours. Priest Nathan told me that's how you trick people. No, he said, not yours. I don't have to accept yours. I don't have to accept yours. Priest Nathan told me that's how you trick people. Clever, the satyr said. So you do understand and you accept the conditions via all the natural laws that run your world? Yes, he said. And with that, the satyr sent us away. Yes, he said, and with that, the satyr sent us away. The next day, I woke up afraid to think, afraid to move, ready for more pain, but pain did come, but not for me. Pain did come, but not for me. Someone was screaming outside, so visceral, so high, so nightmarish, I forgot my concerns and ran outside. Outside, my father cried. His skin was torn from his body and plastered on the tree outside while his red skinless body of muscle was whipped by fairies who circled around him, giggling all the way. This was one of the parts that got me. This feels like a Clive Barker type story, and even when I talked to the author to get permission to do this, he was apparently a fan of his work. The first two Hellraisers are two of my all-time favorite horror movies. There's like the scene towards like the beginning where when the main antagonist gets like his blood back, gets like when he drinks the blood that got onto the floor, he starts reforming until he's like this muscly, like humanoid. The film can be weird. Yeah, it's such a coolly made film. I really like the effects for it. I've only ever seen the remake to Hellraiser and the first two Hellraiser films. Oh, young master, young master, it's not your turn yet. Your father, he must be done first, for that is the law of the world. You must be judged as you judge. Oh, young master, it's not your turn yet. Your father, he must be done first, for that is the law of the world, and you must be judged as you judge. You must be judged as you judge. That's not any law. Sure it is. You haven't noticed yet? Your daddy was a real piece of work and such nasty thoughts he had in the morning. Yuck. And violence. Oh, he loved it. But don't worry, young master. After his 10 years, we will come for you. That last week, father is punished at least 12 times a day, from what I can tell. Father is punished at least 12 times a week from what I can tell. My fate does not look fun. My fate does not look fun. My fate does not look fun. Finished. I've read through it, and now I've completed my first creepypasta narration in a while. And only 32 minutes have gone by. So, what are my plans moving forward? I'm not listening to anything on the headphones, so don't worry about those. And I've set the microphone on that to this other microphone I had lying around, which I first got initially for creepypasta narrations. It's just been gathering dust ever since. My new plans for creepypastas moving forward is to read the ones I get permission to narrate live on Twitch, and then edit the stream down into a narration video. I might also throw in a clip of one of my comic strips in the video, basically to show people that I'm also a comic artist. I even briefly played a comic book compilation, a comic strip compilation video on Twitch after I played Portal. Oddly enough, the audio was muted for copyright reasons when I replayed it on Twitch. The Still Alive music number was copyrighted on YouTube, but wasn't muted on Twitch. Odd coincidence. And even though there are no copyright restrictions on my video when it's on YouTube, because the restrictions read none, I'll personally write that off as a coincidence, but I might mute the video next time I decide to play it. Yeah, I really liked reading this creepypasta because it sounds like with the idea of the fairies, the satyr, and the dad getting his skin ripped off. I personally saw it as like a Clive Barker meets Harry Potter type thing. Or like a Percy Jackson written by Clive Barker. And I feel like the story could work as like a feature-length film. So you can rest assured that me narrating Creepypasta videos is back. How often do I intend to read Creepypasta videos? So far, my first idea is like when I get permission to read a few, and I hope to narrate them live on Wednesday on a weekly basis or a bi-weekly basis. Still want to make room to make comics. And I just posted my most recent one today, more accurately yesterday, but let's not talk about logistics. My newest comic strip video right here. And for most comic strips I do nowadays, I give them voice recordings, comic dubs. I've watched a few comic dub videos and I decided to add voice acting to my videos to hopefully attract more watchers. Looks like now I'm finally putting this microphone right here to good use. This live stream I'm recording will be released publicly on YouTube to one of my other channels. More specifically, down right here, Charcoal's Dump. This channel is a place where I upload vlogs, behind the scenes videos, blooper reels, and stuff I would otherwise not upload on my other channels. Basically, this is mostly for updates and garbage videos. This video will be available on there free of charge. But for every live stream I make moving forward of a Creepypasta reading, I hope to release them on Patreon and Ko-fi for supporters. And the final videos will be of them edited down into proper narration videos. Will make it to YouTube free for everyone. So you better check these out on Twitch while they're free before they disappear. And if you want to watch them after that, you'll have to pay up on Patreon to see an archive of them. Work is work and money is money. I do have more creepypastas on the list of creepypasta narrations for my consideration. So far I have 4 creepypastas on the list. Just haven't asked for permission to read them. And once I get permission to read them, I add a little check mark next to them on the document, so that way I know I've been given the author's blessing to read it. Might also write down some additional requests the author might make in terms of making the video. But the check mark means production can move forward. I at least want to get permission to read, because the last thing I want is to make progress on something only to throw it away because someone said no. I have nothing more to say, so I'm probably just gonna end this video. This has been a good stream of me reading a creepypasta for all of you. Wish I probably would have done more, but at least I have some more stuff to talk about. as well as how I like this creepypasta. This sort of Clive Barker meets Harry Potter and or Percy Jackson. Speaking of which, as part of my birthday present, I recently got the Blu-rays for the first two Hellraiser movies. This one is the second one. I currently have that in the player. The kind of horror movies I like are those sort of old, like art films, like Hellraiser. I've said everything I wanted to say, and in conclusion, Charcoal Records is the YouTube channel I'll be making creepypasta videos at, and it's coming back. Open up. This is where you'll see me upload creepypasta narration videos as I have since 2020. I originally started uploading them on my main channel, but eventually decided to move them over to this new audio channel to help separate that from my main channel. There's my Gory Parodies collaboration video, and I've managed to record a total of around 67 creepypasta narrations. I even narrated Max and Ruby 0004 myself. I haven't watched my creepypasta videos in a long time, as I've long since grown out of them, and I was reluctant to watch them again because I was thinking, oh, the audio quality's bad and it's not going to sound good and the music's too loud and it'll just be garbage all the way. But I actually went and rewatched some of my videos, and rewatching them, they actually weren't that bad. At least not as bad as I built them up to be. Sure, the audio quality isn't the best, and I would mostly try and go for them in one take. I was such a damn it YouTuber, willing to just push out a video anywhere I could. Nowadays I'm learning to slow down and record my videos within reason. Tales of Terror from Reddit might not come back in its original form, but I could make a short stories compilation video in the future. Fingers crossed. Anyway, check this YouTube channel out to see when I'll post it. I hope to have the creepypasta video on there on Sunday. It's been fun making this live stream. Goodbye.